Can we watch this news anchor who reacted to Taylor Swift being engaged?
Taylor Swift is engaged.
I am so much more frightened of the women that follow Taylor Swift religiously than I am of anyone who lives in Saudi Arabia, including the Bin Laden family, by the way, who I hope to have dinner with, actually. The people that have chosen to make this woman's life their life, her engagement is their engagement. The soundtrack of her life is a soundtrack to their life. Those women need to have burqas on them now.
Taylor Swift is engaged.
Burqa. Burqa.
Taylor Swift is engaged.
Burqa.
Taylor Swift is engaged.
Acid attack.
This, come back to me.
Virtue
She
police.
just posted it.
Get her.
Oh my God. Oh, it's huge. The ring is ginormous.
In the
I'm
house.
so excited.
In the house. You're not allowed out of the house.
Oh my God.
In the house now.
Oh my God.
You're out of the house without your husband. Jail.
On her Instagram.
Jail, jail.
On her Instagram. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Honor
oh my God.
killing.
I feel like Paul Revere right now.
Stoner. Stoner. Honor killing.
This is a very
Honor
exciting
killing
moment
in the
for me
town
in my
square.
professional-
And I'm supposed to be scared of Saudi Arabia? I'm supposed to be scared of Saudi Arabia. This is the news. CBS News. If you broke down in tears because Taylor Swift got engaged to that vaccine shill, you need a burqa draped on you now, acid in the face.
All right, we're back. I'm still smiling from Jimmy's clip, which reminds me, everyone, he's in Rosemont tonight and tomorrow, Chicago Sunday, Louisville Tuesday, and Fort Wayne on Wednesday. Jimmy Dore Comedy. Oh my gosh, I just had a blast from past. JimmyDore.com. JimmyDore.com. All right, let's get through some chats before we go back to Misty. James Turner, why has Sandusky never been harmed in prison? Steve Bertram, yes, politics is violent. Kirk was not a politician or anyone with any real power. This serves no purpose beyond inflaming tensions. Thank you, Steve and James. Cosmo says, and thank you for the generous chat, Cosmo. I have no bells. I have no bells and no gongs, but thank you for the generous chat. I have information on George Zim, the old man arrested in the Charlie Kirk shooting. He confessed to me everything years before it happened. I know. I talked to him. He told me about emailing the Boston Marathon. He was at Pace. Ooh, well, thank you for sharing that, Cosmo. Danny Finch, hey, Kurt, do you now regret making fun of Kirk? Thanks, Danny Finch. Vianticus Prime, did I read this one before? There was I had issues. I had computer issues, so I apologize if I've already read this one. Vianticus Prime, to quote myself, like the asshole I am, the true conflict in society is between those who want freedom from others. I did read this, and those who want freedom over others. Vianticus Prime, of course, here we go with the gamer thing. It's bad enough what Visa and MasterCard are doing that no one in the alternative media are talking about. It's fucking crazy. Thank you, Vianticus. Chiliope just ordered my Remember the Liberty t-shirt. It lists the dead and wounded and even says, thanks to our greatest ally. Thank you, Chiliope. Chiliope again, just okay, that was a double. A couple more, and then I'm going to throw back to Misty. Cosmo, look into the book link to Constance Lowe. He told me she would publish the book before the shooting ever happened. And Danny Finch again. The Kirk investigation brought to you by the same people who said Epstein offed himself. Venezuela is flooding us with drugs and Iran hates our freedom. Thank you, Cosmo, and thank you, Danny. And with that, we will go back to Misty.
Yay. Thanks, Misha. Thanks for all the chats, guys. And thanks for you guys for being so kind in the chat, too. I've seen, well, some of you are assholes, but it's okay. I get it. I'm also an asshole, so. All right, let's move on. We got a couple of Venezuela stories to talk about because, you know, there's not enough chaos. Let's add Venezuela to the mix. Yay. Okay. So again, if you are just tuning in, welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I am your guest host, Misty Winston. Thanks for tuning in. As Misha mentioned, Jimmy is out on tour. He's got lots of tour dates coming up. So please check out jimmydore.com for a link for all the tickets. And while you're there, check out the special. It is fantastic and we all need a laugh. There's a lot of heavy stuff going on these days. So this is from Reuters. People killed in U.S. boat strike were not Tren de Agua, Venezuelan minister says. So As you guys probably already know, we decided to drone strike a fishing boat off the coast of Venezuela, claimed they were drug dealers, and it turns out maybe not. Who would have thunk it? So none of the 11 people killed in a U.S. military strike on a boat in the Caribbean last week were members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua. Venezuelan's interior minister said on Thursday, as the South American nation deployed troops amid heightened tensions with the U.S. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has said the boat was transporting illegal narcotics, but has provided scant further information about the incident, even amid demands from members of the U.S. Congress for justification for the action. Quote, they openly confessed to killing 11 people, Interior Minister and ruling party head Diosdado Cabello said on state television, quote, we have done our investigations here in our country, and there are the families of the disappeared people who want their relatives. And when we asked in the towns, none were from Tren de Agua, none were drug traffickers, end quote. A murder has been committed against a group of citizens using lethal force, added Cabello, questioning how the U.S. could determine whether drugs were on the boat and why the people were not instead arrested. I mean, we don't believe in due process here in the United States anymore. I don't know if you were made aware. The Venezuelan government said after the incident that a video post by Trump of the strike was artificial intelligence. These were evil Tren de Agua narco terrorists trying to bring illegal drugs into our country and kill Americans, White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly said in a response to questions. Kelly said Maduro is not the legitimate president of Venezuela and that he is a fugitive. They love this line. The Pentagon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said early on Thursday his country would deploy military, police, and civilian defenses at 284 battlefront locations across the country, his latest show of military capacity. The Trump administration has ratcheted up the U.S. military presence in the Southern Caribbean as part of what it says is a crackdown on drug smugglers, and ordered the deployment of 10 F-35 fighter jets to a Puerto Rico airfield. Maduro, who has alleged the U.S. military is hoping to drive him from power, yes, did not say how many military, police, or civilian militias would participate in the new deployment. His government has already announced an increase of 25,000 troops for states along Venezuela's border with Colombia that are drug trafficking hubs. Quote, we're ready for an armed fight if necessary. He said from the Central Coast, along all of the Venezuelan coast from the border with Colombia to the east of the country, from north to south and east to west, we have a full preparation of official troops, which we're going to get into later. Reuters witnesses in several cities around Venezuela did not note an increase in troop presence. The U.S. last month doubled its reward for information, leading to the arrest of Maduro to $50 million over allegations of drug trafficking and links to criminal groups. Maduro has always denied the accusations, and his government says Venezuela is not a drug producer. And this is very clearly not about drugs, guys. We don't care about drugs. Nobody brings more drugs into this country than our own government. And we're known for it, right? Like that, we have a history of doing exactly that. This is about so much more than drugs. But I did want to bring just some information to kind of prove my point here. So U.S. citizens were 89% of convicted fentanyl traffickers in 2022. And this is not surprising if you think about it on a logical basis. So fentanyl overdoses tragically cost tens of thousands of preventable deaths last year. Many politicians who want to end U.S. asylum law claim that immigrants crossing the border illegally are responsible. An NPR's post poll found that 39% of Americans and 60% of Republicans believe, quote, most of the fentanyl entering the U.S. is smuggled in by unauthorized migrants crossing the border illegally, end quote. It's not what's happening. A more accurate summary is that fentanyl is overwhelmingly smuggled by U.S. citizens, almost entirely for U.S. citizen consumers. Here are the facts. Fentanyl smuggling is ultimately funded by U.S. consumers who pay for illicit opioids, nearly 99% of whom are U.S. citizens. In 2022, U.S. citizens were 89% of convicted fentanyl drug traffickers, 12 times greater than convictions of illegal immigrants for the same offense. In 2023, 93% of fentanyl seizures occurred at legal crossing points or interior vehicle checkpoints, not on illegal migration routes. So U.S. citizens who are subject to less scrutiny. And this is where that makes sense, right? Like if you are a legal citizen and you are entering back into the United States, you're going to be able to get through much easier than an illegal migrant. Like you can hide it and they don't really check. They can't really check. There's a lot of checkpoints and not enough people to check it. So the location of smuggling makes sense because hard drugs at ports of entry are at least 96% less likely to be stopped than people crossing illegally between them. At most, just 0.009% of the people arrested by Border Patrol for crossing illegally possessed any fentanyl whatsoever. Each individual busted for fentanyl by Border Patrol possessed, on average, half as much fentanyl as each person busted at ports of entry in 2023, 10 versus 20 pounds. The government exacerbated the problem by banning most legal cross-border traffic in 2020 and 2021, accelerating a switch to fentanyl, the easiest to conceal drug. During the travel restrictions, fentanyl seizures at ports quadrupled from fiscal year 2019 to 2021. Fentanyl went from a third of combined heroin and fentanyl seizures to over 90%, which is crazy. Annual deaths from fentanyl nearly doubled from 2019 to 2021 after the government banned most travel. So there was no travel. Doubled anyway. And that was from 2022. This is a more recent study. American citizens smuggle more fentanyl into the U.S. than migrants, data show. Approximately 80% of people prosecuted and convicted of federal drug trafficking offenses were U.S. citizens. And they are the people who have the ability to cross, but are also going to be able to slip under the radar. McGrath dismissed the idea that migrants and asylum seekers fleeing violence are the ones primarily bringing fentanyl into the country. Federal records show more than 90% of all fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine is seized at legal border crossings or border checkpoints on major roads along the border. Here's what it's really about, though. It's really not about the drugs. I wanted to bring you the information about the drugs and who's actually bringing the drugs into the country. It is Americans for Americans. But it has nothing to do with the drugs. It has everything to do with the oil, you guys. And I think we all know that. So Venezuela has the world's most oil. Who'da thunk it, right? I'm sure that's a coinkydink. So here, if you look at it, this is, they have 303.22 billions of barrels. So more than Saudi Arabia, more than Iran, more than Canada, Iraq, UAE, Kuwait, Russia, United States, Libya, the rest of the world in total. So that is what this has always really been about. They want to get Maduro out because he serves as a huge roadblock for them in order to take over. And this is what we do. We like to overthrow democratically elected leaders. First, we have to demonize them in the press. We have to call them, what are they? What did she call him? Let me go back. What did she call him? He is where is it? A fugitive. There it is. He's a fugitive, guys. He's not the legitimate president of Venezuela. He's a fugitive. He's a bad guy. He's a drug dealer. He's in this gang, Tren de Agua. So we got to take him out and we got to install a puppet dictator so that we can then steal their natural resources. This is our MO all across the world, has been for a very, very, very long time. So, and this I thought was funny. Because if you guys remember, JD Vance's mom was literally a drug dealer. Literally a drug dealer. She worked at a hospital. She stole morphine. She sold it. And he's out here advocating for the extrajudicial drone bombing of fishing boats because he thinks that they're drug dealers, or he's going to tell people that they're drug dealers. So he tweeted out, "Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military." I mean, that's definitely a thought. And I wanted to bring up Gary Webb because the anniversary of his death was recent. And in 1996, Gary exposed how the CIA hired drug traffickers to sell massive amounts of cocaine in the United States in order to raise untraceable funds to finance a terrorist organization who were trying to overthrow the Nicaraguan government. These massive shipments of cocaine ultimately sparked the crack epidemic that decimated inner cities during the 90s. As a result, mainstream media vilified Gary Webb and destroyed his career, which also destroyed his marriage, but he refused to back down. In 2004, he was found dead with 2 bullet wounds to his head, and it was ruled a suicide. This man literally lost everything to give us a glimpse of the truth. Don't let his memory or what he stood for fade. So this is not a new thing. We all know that the United States government engages in this type of activity. We all know that the United States government loves to overthrow a democratically elected leader so we can install a puppet dictator. We did it with Juan Guaido. We did it in Syria just recently. We do it all over the globe. We have been for a very long time. This has nothing to do with drugs. That's just the line that they're selling you so that they can engage your fear receptors and then justify the incoming conflict with Venezuela and the overthrow of Nicolas Maduro so that we can take over their country. So there you have it. It's very annoying to me, but that's what we do. And it's weird to me that people still pretend like that's not what we do, and that we somehow like this is a legitimate story and that people buy the official narrative on any of this stuff. None of it's true. It's all absurd. So I did have another quick story on Venezuela in terms of them preparing for the incoming conflict that they think they are pretty sure is inevitable. So, and again, by the way, if you are just tuning in, thank you for watching the Jimmy Dore Show. I am your guest host, Misty Winston. We're talking about Venezuela. So here we have it where the Venezuelan president deploying military and militias to 284 battlefront locations as tensions with U.S. rise. And we talked about this a little bit in the last article. This just goes into a little bit more detail as to where Nicolas Maduro stands and what he's thinking. So Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said he would deploy military and militias to 284 battlefront locations across his country as tensions with the U.S. rise following a deadly strike last week. Flanked by his defense minister, Maduro raised the stakes in a state television broadcast Thursday morning. Quote, we're ready for an armed fight if it's necessary. And along all the Venezuelan coasts from the border with Colombia to the east of the country, from north to south and east to west, we have a full preparation of official troops. The escalation follows a lethal U.S. strike last week on what President Donald Trump claimed was a boat smuggling drugs out of Venezuela for the Tren de Agua gang. Trump alleged that the shipment in the Caribbean Sea was led by the Venezuelan president, which Maduro denied. The strike on, and there's no evidence, by the way, at least none that's been presented that I have seen, that he is a member of this gang, that he has anything to do with this gang. This is just the line that they're selling people, again, in order to manufacture consent for what they want to do here. The strike on the vessel killed 11 people, which is the first known U.S. military attack against alleged drug traffickers since the Trump administration began sending warships to the Caribbean last month. Quote, please let this serve as notice to anyone even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. Beware. So stupid. Trump wrote last week, but the administration has since shared little information about the strike. Venezuelan Interior Minister said Thursday that none of the 11 people killed aboard the vessel belonged to Tren de Agua. Quote, they openly confessed to killing 11 people. We have done our investigations here in our country, and there are the families of the disappeared people who want their relatives. And when we asked in the towns, none were from Tren de Agua, none were drug traffickers. We kind of talked about this a little bit before. A murder has been committed against a group of citizens using lethal force, again, with no due process, just an extrajudicial killing of 11 people based on vibes. The minister questioned how the U.S. could determine whether drugs were on board the vessel and asked why the individuals were not arrested instead. Vice President J.D. Vance was being super cool on Twitter and was among those fiercely defending the strike and said that he, quote, doesn't give a shit if people consider the action a war crime. Clearly, it's clear you don't give a shit, my guy. Quote, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. It's unclear how the U.S. military presence in the region will disrupt the drug trade. The ships are a part of a, quote, enhanced counter-narcotics operation to carry out drug interdiction missions in Latin America, a defense official told the Washington Post last week. Phil Gunson, a Caracas-based political analyst for the International Crisis Group, believes the operation is, quote, likely to be an expensive failure, since at best it will only temporarily disrupt trafficking in the East Caribbean. But he added, there are ancillary goals, including the destabilization of the Maduro government and possibly even its collapse. That's something the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has long promoted for years. But there appears to be no clear plan as to how to achieve it, and even less of an idea how to deal with the chasm that might ensue. And that's, again, kind of repeating myself here. We do this all the time, and we never actually, maybe they do actually consider the ramifications and what's actually going to be on the other side of the overthrowing of said government. Because we've done this so many times and it's never good. It's never better. It always throws things into even more turmoil and chaos. And again, Marco Rubio has for years, when he was running for president, this was something that he was talking about. Trump has long blamed Venezuela for a drug epidemic in the U.S., claiming Caracas is pouring narcotics in through illegal channels. Venezuela has denied the allegations, asserting that the vast majority of cocaine produced in Colombia departs through the Pacific. Maduro is widely considered a dictator and not recognized by the U.S. as Venezuela's legitimate leader. Widely considered. By who? I think most people other than the West consider him a legitimate leader. He was sworn into a third 6-year term in January, and he maintains he was the legitimate winner of the presidential election last year. The opposition, however, said there is credible evidence that its candidate had won the vote, and as it urged the U.S. and other countries to ramp up pressure on Maduro to force him out of office. The Trump administration announced a $50 million reward last month for Maduro's arrest, accusing him of being one of the world's largest drug traffickers and working with cartels to flood the U.S. with fentanyl-laced cocaine. Maduro denies any connection to the drug trade. And again, no evidence has been presented to back those claims up in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Again, it's just vibes. Like, trust me, bro. That's basically what we're going on. But this is such an effective tactic. I mean, they just convince you that Maduro is a drug dealer and he's funneling drugs into this country that are killing your children. And then you're going to be willing to go to war with Nicolas Maduro and overthrow his government. And then we can take over their country and their oil. And there you have it. So I don't think a lot of people are talking about the Venezuela thing. Unfortunately, it has been buried by the insane amount of other stories that are happening right now. There is a lot going on. But this thing is really, I think it might have been on this show. I'm not sure if it was this show or not, but I think it was Dave DeCamp. But this thing is really heating up. Like, it's the Venezuela thing has been kind of bubbling beneath the surface for a long time. But obviously this is an escalation, like drone striking a fishing boat off the coast with no evidence, no due process, no nothing. That is an obvious escalation. And now Maduro is very clearly preparing his military for what I'm sure he sees as an inevitable conflict with the United States, which is a terrifying prospect. There's already enough violence and chaos and war going on. And now we're just going to add this one to the mix. So that is what is going on in Venezuela. So I think we're going to take another quick break, come back and see if there's any other chats to do. And then we've got 2 last stories and then you're done with me. We're over. It's over. So we'll be right back.
You could buy a home in California and put $20,000 down. A lot of money. Let's not disagree that $20,000 is a lot of money. You could put $20,000 down on a property in the late 90s. And that property was worth maybe $200,000. All you needed was $20,000. That property is now worth over $1 million. I don't understand how property values can be that blown out of proportion. And now the mortgage rates are that much. You want to talk to me?
It's because of the devaluation of the dollar. As Dave Smith has talked about, they don't tax you to pay for the $20 trillion we've spent on Middle East wars over the last 20 years. They don't tax you for that. They just print it. And when you print that money, as we've learned through having our gold spokespeople come on and talk about, gold's at an all-time high right now, over $3,000. And the dollar's at all-time low. And that's why a house costs way more than it should, because your dollar isn't worth anything. That's why. And they keep printing the money. Trump's got another $200 billion. He didn't cut money from the Pentagon. He didn't cut any of that Doge money. He put even more of it into the Pentagon again. $200 billion extra on top of the Pentagon that can't pass an audit. They don't know where the money's going. Trump, give him $200 billion more, and let's create a surveillance state with Palantir. So no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain.